This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, did you guys try for making the deployment to Linux VM? No? If not, please try to do it. So refer to the documents and try for how you can make a deployment. Okay. What is the task that we have used to make deployments to virtual machines? IAS Web App Manage and IAS Web App Deploy. By default, web server runs on which port number? 80. Okay. What is the folder structure for making deployments into IAS machine? Hmm? C drive, inetpub, root. Okay. What is the folder structure for making deployments into Linux machine? Where www and then HTML file. That's fine. Okay. So yesterday we have made the deployments to our own virtual machines. How did we make the deployment? First, we added the deployment group, and we added registered our virtual machines there, and then we were able to make the deployments on top of the deployment group job itself. Okay, fine. So let's discuss about one more concept. So now we are going to discuss about a new thing. So now we are going to discuss about virtual network. What is a virtual network? Wherever you see virtual, that means you are not able to touch it, but you can use it. Okay. Virtual network. It is a private network where in Azure. It's a private network in Azure. See, when you are trying to create a VM, along with the VM, it created VNet. I'll show you. So virtual network is by definition it is a private network within Microsoft Azure. So if you want to create any resources, there should be some network inside it. So when you are creating the resources, see this. I'll just show it to you. Yesterday we have created these two, right? So let's see. For the VM Windows, I have a VM, right? For this VM, there is a networking, and see this a virtual network is attached to it. You are not aware, like earlier you are not aware of this. So we are going to cover all this. So for each and every resource, if you want to create those resources under your network, you can create those resources. Basically, first, what is a virtual network? It's a private network within Microsoft Azure. Okay. Can I create a virtual network? Yes. How to create it? So in the search bar, look for virtual networks. Virtual networks. You can create your own virtual network within Microsoft Azure, and you can utilize this virtual network to create other resources. Okay. Before creating it, I just want to give you some few explanation about this. Okay. Tell me whatever the IP addresses that starts with anything. 192 you might have seen. 192.168.0.1 something like this. And you also might have seen 172 also. 172.168.0.1 something like this. And then also you might have seen 10.0.0.1 like this. You might have seen these different kind of IP addresses that are started with 10, 172, 192. What about these three? So if the IP addresses are starting with 192, then it is a small network. If the IP addresses are starting with 172, it is a medium network. If the IP addresses are starting with 10, then it is a large network. Okay. Now, Let's take one example. I'm just taking 192.168.0.1. How many blocks are there in this? When I say blocks, this is one block. This is one block. This is one and this is one. How many blocks are there? Four blocks. Is it IPv4 or IPv6? So if you see four blocks, then it is IPv4. If you see six blocks, okay. So each block I am going to consider it as 8 bits. Each block I am going to consider it as 8 bits. How many bits are there? Hmm? 32 bits. Okay. Each block I am considering as 8. 8 into 4, 32. Okay. Now I want to have an IP address that starts with something else like 192. I need like this is a private network, right? I want to specify what kind of IP addresses that is required for me. Now I'm going to specify the address for it. So when I say address, CIDR, classless inter-domain range. CIDR stands for classless inter-domain range. This all of this is like everything is a networking concept here. Okay. Now I will give some address CIDR range 192.168.0.1 by I'll keep 20 by I'll keep 8, and like the same way I'm going to copy this, and instead of 8 I'll keep 16. Instead of 16 I'll keep 24. Instead of 24 I'll keep 32. What is by 8, by 16, by 24 and by 32? So here 19, so you need to see it from the left side, not from this side. Okay. 192.168.0.1 by 8. So that means this one is 8 bytes, right? 8 bits. This one is fixed. The remaining will keep on changing. If I keep 16, these two are fixed. The remaining will change. If I keep 24, these three are fixed. Understood? If I keep 32, four are fixed, right? Okay. Till this point, it is fine, right? Okay. Basically, how do the IP addresses start? The IP addresses starts with 0 to till 255. So consider like this. In this, I have 192.168.0.1, right? So in the first, it will start with 0 to 1, 0 to 255. Again 0 to 255. Again 0 to 255. Again 0 to 255. Now, like I'm just going to write like this. I'll just copy all this. So IP addresses will start with 0 to 255. Four blocks I have written is as I have the four blocks I have written it as 0 to 255. In the 0 to 255 we have 192, right? In the 0 to 255 we have 168. In the 0 to 255 0 and 1. Okay. Now basically the IP addresses will start with 0 and ends with 255. How many IP addresses are there in this? 255 or 254? 256 including 0. Including 0 it is 256 IP addresses. Now tell me, if I simply keep 192.168.0.1 by 8, how many IP addresses I will get? So this one will start from 0 to 255. This one will start from 0 to 255. This one also will start from 0 to 255. So I might get n number of IP addresses, right? So we will just start with the basic one. To calculate the number of IP addresses, we have a formula called 2 power 32 minus n. 2 power 32 minus n. What is this n and what is this 32? This 32 is like this. How many blocks are there? 4. Each block is 8 bits. 8 into 4, 32. So 2 power 32 minus n. Whatever the number that you want to give, you can give it. Let's consider only, but take 32 only. 2 power 32 minus 32. Anything power 0? 0. Is it correct? Anything power 0, 1. Anything power 0, 1. So 2 power 32 minus 32. Again 2. 2 power 0, how much? 1. Anything power 0, 1. Okay, now 2 power 0, that means 1. So that means these 4 are fixed, right? If I keep by 32, so that means this is fixed, this is fixed, this is fixed, and this is fixed. So I'll get only this IP address. Let's take 24. 2 power 32 minus 24. How much? 2 power 8. 2 power 8 in the sense 256. So I will get 256 IP addresses if I use by 24. Take this 16. 2 power 32 minus 16. 2 power 16. Somewhere around 65,000. If I keep 16, I'm getting 65,000 IP addresses. If I keep by 24, I'll get 256. If I keep by 32, I'll get 1. If you are having any problem with this, just go to Google, look for IP calculator, IP calculator and IP subnetting. 192.168.0.1 by 24, right? Like let's keep it by 32. We want to find out whether the formula is correct or not. See how many you are getting? Only one. If I want to keep by 16, see this, you are going to get 65,000. If I keep 8, these many number of IP addresses you are going to get. Okay, now this is fine. So let's stick to the box. Now tell me one scenario. 190, like I'm just going to write 172.168.0.1 by 24. How many IP addresses I'll get? 256. Because 2 power 8, 256. In that, which 3 is constant? First 3 is constant. Okay. So just copy this here. So the IP addresses will, okay, I'm just going to keep this as from starting from 0 itself. So first 3 are constant. The second, so the next IP will start with 1. After that, it is going to start with 2. Like this, till how many IPs it is going to go? It is going to go for till 255. Till 255. Okay, this is completed. Then what next? Is it going to start with again? No. We fixed only 24. That means these 3 are constant. Only change this one. So the IP address will start from 0 to 255. So that means I got the 256 IP addresses. That is what you get, right, by use 24. Okay. Now let's take another example. I have 0.0 by 16. If I use 16, which two are constant? First two are constant. Only the last two will change. So the IP addresses will start from 0.1, 0.2. Like this, it will go till 0.255. After that, yes, exactly. 1.0, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4 like this. Till how many IP addresses it will reach? 255.255. Got it. This is how the IP addresses are going to be defined. Now you have a scenario. I want only, I have a private network. When I say private network, it is virtual network. So so if anybody asks you what is virtual network, you need to define it as it is a private network within Microsoft Azure. Okay. I have taken I have taken something like by 16. How many IP addresses I'll get? 65,000 IPs. In that 65,000 IPs, I want to give 20,000 IP for dev environment, 20,000 IPs for QA environment, 20,000 IPs for UAT. Is it possible to give? Yes, it is possible. That subject is called subnetting. Subnet. Breaking down the large network into smaller parts is called subnetting. So what I'll do is out of this 60 out of by 16 I kept, right, 65,000 IPs I'm going to get. I am going to keep in that 65,000. I want 256 IP addresses for which environment dev. I'm going to name it as dev subnet. And also I want 256 IP addresses. But again, if you do the 0.0, already this address is overlapping, right? So the next one will start with 1.0 by 24, and I'm going to call it as QA subnet. Like this, can I make it or not? Yes. Breaking down the large network into smaller parts is nothing but subnets. Okay. So let's do this practically. So I want to create a VNet, virtual network. Create. So I want to create a new resource group. RG hyphen. I'm just keeping it as class, and I want it to be under the name of the VNet. My VNet hyphen class. I want it to be created under West US 3. Okay. Click on IP addresses. See, this is where the address space. Okay. So in the address space, the IPs will start with 10.1.0.0. No, I want the IPs should be starting with 0.0. Something like this. If not something like this, you do one thing. Whatever is easy for you to understand, you can keep like this 192.168.0.0. If I keep by 16, how many IPs I will get? 65,000 IPs. So I am taking the large network as a 65,000 IPs. In that, it is asking me add the subnets. Yes, I want to create a subnet. What is the subnet name? I'm going to keep it as subnet A. You need to provide the address range. So this is the original address space, right? Copy this, paste it here. But if you try to use the same thing, what happens? It will take it, but there is no use in it because you have taken the large network, again you are taking the small network to be the same network. It is not going to work. In this complete range 65,000, I want to have 256 IP addresses. So the IP should be starting with 192.168. I want to start my IPs with the 9.0. If I keep by 16, see, it is not a valid CIDR. So if I keep by 16, it is not going to work. I am going to keep 24. Understood? See, 192.168.9.0 to how many it is going to create? 9.255. How many IP addresses you are going to get? 256. 251 plus 5. How many? 256. In that, 5 addresses are used for internal communication. So you will get only 251 only. Why that 5 resources are like why that 5 IPs are used? Microsoft needs it for internal communication. You won't get the 256 IP address. We'll get only 251. Okay. Do you want to use a NAT gateway? What is NAT gateway? We'll see all those things later. Just add the subnet range. So I created a big network, and inside that network I have taken a small network that is called subnet. Next, go to security wise. This will be by default like this. You don't have to make any change. If you want to add tags, add it, or else just review and create it. So it is trying to create a virtual network for me. Okay, once it is created, the next step that I want to do is I want to create a VM by using this private network. Is it possible? I have created a private network. My VM should be created from this private network. So if the VM is created from this private network, what will be the IP address of the VM? Somewhere in this network only, right? Okay, we'll see. We'll try to create a VM from this. Okay, so let it complete. And I have one more dot. I'm keeping by 8, by 16, by 24, by 32. Can I keep 23? Can I keep 27? Yes, you can keep that also. Keep 27, calculate it. You'll get 30 IP addresses. Keep 21, calculate it. 2000 IPS you will get. Understood? So in the real time, if you want to have any specified number of IP addresses, you can calculate according to this and you can specify the address. Or you can specify the subnet address range. Okay. This is done. Now what I want to do is I want to create virtual machines. So create virtual machine. Now whatever the private network that I have created, from that network I am trying to create a VM. So the IP address that I need to look is private IP or public IP? Private IP. Okay. So in which resource group I have my VNet RG class? Okay. What is the VM name? VM hyphen VNet. Vestry. Standard. I want it to be Windows. Let's say admin password match. Okay, done. Hello selected ports. You know right why we use ports. Okay, this is fine. RDP is fine. Now, earlier we used to fill only this tab. Now let's go to the networking tab. This is where I can select my private network and see this. This is the VNet that I have, right? So under RG class, I have my VNet. Okay. In that, what is the subnet? This is the subnet that it needs to take. So you can clearly say that your IP address will start with 192.168.9 dot. We don't know the last number. By 24 means these three are fixed. The last one will get changed. Okay. And a public IP is going to be assigned to this. So earlier you used to see, right? A public IP will be you are used to connect to the VM using public IP. So this is where what I, I missed it. Okay, suddenly it went into the back. Okay, let me just reselect all of this. So under resource group RG class and the VM name is VM VNet and these are fine. Go to networking concept and this is where you need to load your VNet and the subnet range. Okay. And earlier you used to connect to the VM through the public IP and see this. Do you want to attach a public IP to this? Yes. See, it is creating a new public IP and the name of that public IP is VM VNet IP. Public IP. If you keep none, there won't be any public IP. Okay. Network interface card network security group. So just go with the defaults as of now. Here also, if you want to select any ports, you can select the ports from here. And load balancing is a different concept. We will see that later. Delete the public IP and network interface card when VM is deleted. When you are trying to delete the VM, it shows which resources you need to delete. Each and every time I don't want to select it. So directly if you do select here, automatically along with the VM, whatever that is attached to it will get deleted. Okay. Enable accelerated work networking. Accelerated networking. What do you mean by accelerated networking? Enables low latency and high throughput on the network interface. For example, you are playing a game called PUBG. You used to fire, right? So it's an online game. Whenever you used to fire on the left side, you can see the ping. You can see the ping 30 milliseconds, 40 milliseconds. What is that? Latency. So even if you hit the bullet right now, after 40 milliseconds, it is going to reach the target because that is a network latency. Like this, do you want to have a accelerated networking? If you enable this, what happens is low latency. So there won't be 40 milliseconds or 50 milliseconds. It will be very less and high throughput. So it gives a good performance. That's it. Accelerated networking. That's it. Okay. So we have seen basic tab and networking tab, and we have defined our own network, VNet and subnet also. Now let's try to create this. So I'll tell you. The IP address will start with 192.168.9.4. Why it is starting with 4? Let's see. So 192 dot whatever the range that I have given was 192.168.9.0 I have given. I 24, right? So these three are constant. Now I am going to get one IP address to the VM, right? So the IP address of the VM will be somewhere like 4. Let's see. What about the 0? What about the 1? What about the 2? What about the 3? First 4 will first 0, 1, 2, 3. These 4 will be Microsoft taken for the internal communication, and the last IP also will be taken care by the Microsoft. So once this is created, we will be able to see the private IP of that VM. Basically, how I am connecting to the internet for my laptop, I am able to communicate with the internet. How? Because there is some network interface card. For the same way, for the VM that we are creating, for that VM also there will be a network interface card. Why do we use network interface card? To communicate through the private network or public network. We need to have a network interface card. Through that only the communication is going to happen. And you are going to get one IP, right? That IP is always attached to the network interface card, not to the VM. The IP is always attached to the network interface card. I will explain you. So once this is completed, we'll see the next step. Yeah, it is done. Okay, go to that resource. This is the VNet, VM, and forget about the public IP. This will be randomly generated by Microsoft. And go to your private IP. See, I am able to get the VM from my own private network. Okay. So till this point it is fine. Under networking concept, you will be able to see all this. Okay. How do you control the traffic to the VNet? How do you control the traffic? When I say traffic, hmm, how do you control the traffic to the VNet? Network interface, network security group. What do we have in the network security group? Inbound, outbound port rules. Understood. Earlier, what I have done was I went into the networking. There I have changed the inbound and outbound port rule. See, if I went into the network, clearly you can see all the information related to my IP, like a private network. What is the VNet and what is the subnet and what is the public IP, private IP, and see this. So network security group is used to control the traffic to the private network. How? By providing inbound and outbound connections. I don't want internet to be work on the VM. Understood the question? I have a VM. In that VM, I don't want anyone to access internet from that VM. Can you block it? Yes. If you are able to block it, how? For example, take something like this. I don't want anyone to browse Google, Facebook, Twitter, anything from that VM. Now tell me easy way. Is it outbound or inbound? Outbound. Because from the VM it should not go outside. So it is a outbound. Basically, Google, Facebook, or anything works on HTTP or HTTPS. So that means you need to block which port number. Understood. So this is one more interview question. I don't want anyone to browse Google, Facebook, Twitter. How can you block that? Simply block the HTTPS. So everything in the internet is going to be secure HTTPS only, right? Mostly. So if you block the HTTPS access, they won't be able to access Google, Facebook, or anything. Okay. Okay, the VM is done and we are able to see the information about the VM. That is fine. Let's go to one more thing. I want to create one more VM. I want to create one more VM, and that VM should be from different subnet. So first, when I created the VNet, first I created only one subnet. In that 65,000 IPs, how many IPs I am using? 256 only. Still, I have some number of IP addresses, right? So I need to create one more subnet. So go here, go to subnets. You can create one more subnet. Okay. So if you want to create a subnet, you can create it as subnet B. So here, if you try to use this, is it going to work? No. See this 192.168. Earlier I have taken 9, right? Now I will take 10. If you try to use 9, it is not going to work. So 9.0. This subnet address prefix overlaps with the subnet A. So subnet A is already utilizing this 9. So I'll take 8. Is it 8? No. It is 8. 8.0 by 24. So my IP addresses will start with 192.168.8 till 256, 255. See, like this, I can specify one more subnet. And when I'm trying to create a VM, I want to create that VM from this subnet. Can we make it? Let's see. I won't create it, but I will show you the step. When you are practicing it, do it. So let's fill this up. So under this resource group, my VM is, I'm just keeping CM3. Everything is fine. Let's go to networking concept. In the networking, you need to select your subnet B. That's it. So you can create the resource from subnet B, taking the IP address of from this range. Okay, fine. Let's go to VNet. So virtual networks, and in the virtual networks, we have here. What do you mean by virtual network? Private network within Microsoft Azure. What is subnets? Breaking down the large network into smaller parts. Those are called as subnets. Okay. Now, in the address space, when I created it like this. And these 65,000 IPs are not sufficient for me. Can I increase it or decrease it? See, just keep it 24. No, 24 is not sufficient because we already have all those. Let's keep 10. 192.168.0.0 by 10 is not valid as CIDR block. Use this 192.128.0 because already there is some IP addresses which are already utilized. So that's why that IP address is not sufficient. So when you are trying to create a VNet, you must plan for it first. How the address should, how many number of IP addresses I need to take. As of now, everybody is using IP like IPv4 only. IPv6 is not used because with IPv4 only we are getting somewhere around 16 lakhs or something. Okay. Even if you want to change the address space also, you can change it. Okay. Connected devices. Say this. One network interface card is connected to this VM. I told you, right? Network interface card will be connected always to a VM. To that network interface card only a public IP is going to be connected. Okay. See the IP address of this VM. Okay. Click on subnets. If you want to create any subnets, you can create the subnets. And let's see one concept. So theoretically we will see that concept, tomorrow we do it practically. Okay, yeah, now we are here. Like, there are two networks. This is VNet 1 and this is VNet 2. I'll just going to write it as VNet A and VNet B. These two are from Central US. Or else we are following with the West US 3, right? West US 3. And this VNet is also from West US 3. So this VNet A is under a resource group called RG-A. This VNet B is under a resource group called RG-B. Okay. The locations are same for these two VNets, but the resource group are different. That's fine, but the locations are same. By using this VNet, I created a VM. By using this VNet, I created a VM. And by using this VNet B, I created one more VM. So this is one VM1 and this is VM2. Whether these two VMs are in the same VNet? No. So those two VMs are from different VNets. Now I want to make a communication between these two VNets. Is it possible or not possible? What do you think? So from this VM, I want to share some resources to this VM. Is it possible or not possible? What do you think? It is possible. So that concept is called peering. The concept is called peering. Now, this is from West US and this is from East US. I want to make a communication between these two VMs. That is called different regions, right? That is called global VNet peering. Understood? I want these two VMs to communicate with each other. When I want to communicate, first I need to check whether these two VMs are on the same network or not, same region or not. If they are on the same region, then I will go with peering. If they are not on the same region, then I will go with VNet peering. Okay. So let me show you the documentation about whatever we have discussed. What is VNet in Azure? Fundamental building blocks of your private network in Azure. Fundamental building blocks. Those are easy, like not easy to remember. Just understand it is a private network in Azure. Okay. If by using this VNet, you can create VMs or any other resources also. As of now, I just created VMs. Going forward, we'll create other resources also. So let's see the documentation. Why there is a need to use VNet? Securely communicate with each other over the internet and on-premises network. Whenever I say on-premises, just consider this. As of now, where I'm creating the resources, everything is in cloud. Do I have an office and I'm setting up all the servers? Just consider like, if you are coming inside, on the right side you have seen some system and servers, right? This building is called on premises because in this building only I have the servers configuration, everything I have here. But is like whatever the resource that I am creating, is it on premise? Everything is in cloud. If you want, if my machine which is from the cloud wants to connect to the machine that is in this building, like this building, what we call it as, it is an on premise one. If I want to have a communication like this, that also I can have. But what you need to do is, in between you need to have multiple services to achieve that point. Okay, earlier what they used to do was, earlier cloud was not there. For example, you want to run an application called Flipkart. To run this Flipkart application, take a VM. For that VM, they will be having 200 GB of hard RAM and 2000 GB of hard disk. Okay, one VM is not sufficient for the entire people, right? So they are going to keep 100 VMs. When I say VM, like, okay, just put it this way. Cloud was not there. So they are going to purchase the system, keep it in the office, and inside the system they used to install OS, and then they install web server, and then they keep 200 GB of RAM and 2000 GB of hard disk. If this is not sufficient, they will buy one more CPU and they will attach this. Is it physical or cloud? Physically, I am just increasing the number of resources. For example, understand like this. I want the application to run only for 2 days, but all over the world, every people is going to browse it. For the 2 days of work, am I going to purchase all the resources so that I can rent it, right? So who is giving you all the resources for rent? Cloud providers. So now, if you take here, I purchased all the systems and I'm keeping it here. For this building, there will be a security person also, right? There will be a current bill, everything, networking, everything I need to pay. And is this secure? No, not sure. Anyone can attack. Like they can break down the office and they can come inside it. So this is not secure. But when it comes with the cloud, it is very secure. You are creating somewhere in the West US, East US, somewhere. Even nobody knows where you created it. So it is much more secure when compared with the on-premises. Now you understood what is on-premise. Take an example. You have okay. As of now, understand like this because going forward you'll understand. So communicate with the internet. Yes, we can do it. Communication between Azure resources. This is also we can do it through the VNet, and communicate with on-premises resources. Yes, how we can do this? This is a big concept that I will explain later. So as of now, what we are trying to do is we are trying to have peering. Peering. Why we use peering? No, no. Question is they are going to ask like this: what is peering? What is peering in Azure? What is VNet peering? See, virtual network peering. By definition, see, connect to two or more virtual networks in Azure. If you want to establish a connection from one VNet to the another VNet, then you can make use of peering. By peering, what do you achieve? Resource sharing, all these things. From one VM, I can communicate with the other VM. We can share the resources also. And how many types of peerings are there? Two: VNet peering and global VNet peering. VNet peering is the connect virtual network within the same Azure region. When it comes to global VNet, connecting the virtual networks across different regions. Okay. What are the benefits of this? Low latency, high bandwidth, ability for the resources to communicate with the other resources, transfer the data between the VNets, and pair the virtual network created to the Azure Resource Manager. And then see this no downtime to the resources either in any of the VNet. Whenever I say downtime, that means the application will never be down. Okay. Okay. So till this point, any doubt? Pairing, pairing are like why we use pairing. If you want to connect to two virtual networks, then we use peering. How many peerings are there? Two. VNet peering and global VNet peering. Okay. What is network security group? Providing the if you want to restrict the inbound and outbound traffic to the VNet, then you need to specify the rules in NSG, network security group. Okay. Yeah. So till this point, any doubts? No, right? Okay. We will see that practically because once I start now, this won't be completed within this class. So that's why I want to start it as a fresh. So from today onwards, every service is going to take 1 day. Each service 1 day. Okay. I don't want to give much load onto you. So just try to simply learn it.